Welcome to episode 42 of the 24-Hour Hustle Show, and today we got special guests, best-selling author, entrepreneur, speaker, as well, and co-founder of Hand in Hand Counseling Services. Welcome to the 24-Hour Hustle Show. I'm your host, Anthony Freeze, and this is the show where we get the opportunity to sit down with amazing, accomplished guests and find out all about their stories, their struggles, and also their success. If this is the first time you are finding out about us, definitely make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit the bell so you can get notifications every single time we post. However, today we got special guest Sharise Nance on the show. I am definitely glad to have you on the show. We've had a lot of people nominate you and also recommend me to you, so I thought it was a great opportunity to get to know you and all the work that you're doing. We've had people on the show like Nicole Mans, who's also name dropped you on her episode. So I was like, I need to find out more about this person. And then you also reached out to me as well, which gave me the opportunity to check out all the work that you're doing. So you're definitely doing a lot of work, and definitely glad to have you on the show. So welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So for people who don't know who you are yet, how about you give us your name, your background, and all the things that you're doing right now?
Okay. Well, I am Sharise Nance, born and raised right here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, so I'm a native. And grew up in Homewood, East Liberty area. I was a pretty shy kid, didn't like to talk at all.
Okay.
Had so many people taking up for me. So I find myself in a profession where I'm speaking all the time. We're having a conversation right now. Mm-hmm. So who would have known that I would have found myself being a speaker, being a therapist, helping other people sort through their problems and unpack a lot of their traumas. And I found myself interested in how the human mind works. I've always asked a lot of questions. My parents, my grandparents always joke about, wow, she talks so much. She asked so many questions when I was with them. And when I heard about psychology when I was in high school, I'm like, I think I want to get into that. That sounds pretty interesting. It sounds fun. So that's what led me to an undergraduate profession in psychology.
That's awesome. One of the things that, because when we met up, you actually gave me one of your workbooks, which is Refuel, Renew, Recenter, which is a 21-day guide.
Yes.
And I got a chance to read over a little bit. And actually, one of the things that stuck out to me in the beginning is that you said you like to see how people tick. And how the mindset works. And I just thought that was real interesting because I feel like, mindset is everything. And, especially in this day and age with mental health issues, and especially in the Black community, because that's something that's not talked about as much. Yes. So for someone like you to actually go at it head on and actually start to do your research on it and become an expert in this line of work, I think it's amazing. So what were some of the things that made you want to go into this line of work? Like, what inspired you? I know you say you talked with your grandparents and things like that and try to maybe, understand the mind a little bit then. But what were some of the inspirations? Maybe what were some of the behaviors that you seen that made you want to go into this line of work?
Well, I've seen a lot of stuff. Where I grew up in the inner city, Homewood, East Liberty, the schools that I went to were predominantly African American. And just seeing how, some of my peers really struggle, like emotionally, behaviorally. A lot of times they had to get pulled out of class. And I'm like, well, how come they got to get pulled out of classes? And how come they're riding different buses? I would wonder. And they would say, well, no, you can't talk about that. It's offensive. And I'm like, well, why is it? How are they going to get better if we're not talking about these things? It was always like a hush-hush type thing.
Right.
So that made me more curious. And then with me being shy, and I was bullied when I was a little girl, finally was able to stand up to the bully. So having that experience, I knew I needed to be in a profession to have impact, to really help people find the strength and find the courage to be able to use their voice, gain that confidence to understand how powerful their voice is and that you can change the world with using your voice.
Absolutely. And then let's get into your background as far as your education, because you have a lot of education in this line of work. I know you went for social work and psychology and things like that. Take us through that story a little bit on, why you decided to go to certain schools and why, and the steps that you took and the kind of the order of your study.
Yes. So I wanted to go to a HBCU. And my mom was completely against it, only because she was concerned about the lack of diversity that I had with going to a predominantly junior high school, going to a predominantly African American high school, living in a neighborhood that was pretty much all black. She's thinking you need more diversity because, especially if you're going to live here in Pittsburgh, the road that we live in is diverse, and I want you to be more exposed to that. So I'm like, okay, maybe I'll take in what she's saying. So I applied to a lot of the state schools, and I was still a little nervous about completely leaving home. Being an only child, being pretty sheltered, I said, okay, I'm toe dip a little bit.
Yeah.
So I got accepted into IUP. That was one of the first schools that accepted me, and I said, okay, I want to go for it because I had a cousin that went there, and she spoke highly of it. She was pretty pleased with the education that she was getting. So I was not prepared for IUP, and I will say I was ill prepared for a college education. We didn't have any prerequisites to take college courses or anything like that. So I think I was kind of going up there raw. I didn't even have to go in the, usually there's like a learning center a lot of times before you go into college to get you prepared for the college courses. They let students take prep courses before the fall semester starts, and I didn't have to take that because my grades were so good, my SATs were pretty good. So here I am on this campus, first time away from home. I'm overwhelmed, I'm afraid, and then I walk into my Psychology 101 classroom, and I think I might have been either the only black person or there was one other person in there, and I'm like, oh my God, what is this? I had culture shock. And then they were smart. I'm like, they're smart. I'm not only. So I felt myself sinking, and I felt inferior because I didn't feel prepared. And I really struggled my first semester with my confidence. I almost flunked out. I got on academic probation. It was a chin check. Mm-hmm. And I remember my father telling me, you got a decision to make. You know, you're more than capable of doing this. You've done it throughout your career, because we're not going to waste time and money with you being up there and you're flunking out of school. And I'm like, he's right. So when I got back, I had to get real comfortable with being uncomfortable and join some of those study groups with peers who then I thought were smarter than me. They just were exposed to a little bit more educationally than I was at the time. And they were very welcoming, you know, very helpful. And as I joined those groups, you know, I gained a new network, learned some new skills. I learned amazing study skills because I didn't have any study skills. I didn't even know where to begin with studying. So I learned how to do that quite well, which is a skill you need in college for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Can't just breeze through tests. So, you know, I was able to get off of academic probation by the beginning of my first semester. I had a lot of undoing to do, but I think that experience definitely equipped me for the work that I'm doing in this profession. That failure at that time, at that young age, was probably the best thing that could have happened to me.
Yeah, that's awesome. You were able to get a lot of new perspectives, be able to get involved in a lot of different cultures. Yeah. So it deepens your understanding of different, you know, cultures and perspectives and lifestyles and things like that. So I would say, you know, the experience from that is definitely always beneficial.
Yes.
So let's get into your line of work in a little bit, and you know, based off our conversation, so you started hand in hand counseling with your co-founder. Take us through that, and what inspired you to get that started up, and how were you and your co-founder able to get this off the ground?
Well, Tess Kenny and I were actually really good friends. She was at IUP with me, so we were college roommates our junior and senior year, and we had similar backgrounds. So she had a child development, that was her major, mine was psychology. So we always talked about work in this field, but there really wasn't a lot of talk about private practice then until we started getting into work and doing the work. We did a lot of in-home work, a lot of in-home family therapy, a lot of work in the community. I would say that's where 95% of my work was before I got into private practice, before I did it in an outpatient office setting. So when we were at an organization where we did family-based mental health services, where we worked with children who had severe mental illnesses and help the families to, you know, understand that it's not just about the child, it's more of a systemic perspective, and to make sure they had the services that they needed. As clinicians, we started talking about it, and then when we became supervisors, it started becoming more real. So we started started picking the brains of some of our mentors, some consultants who already had private counseling practices, and we're like, let's just do it, you know, because we saw the need. We saw a lot of people of color, you know, a lot of people of lower socioeconomic statuses who weren't getting the services they needed, who were feeling at a brain fart right here, but a lot of times the workers that they were getting weren't culturally competent, weren't able to understand the needs that they had. So we're like, what if we created a private counseling practice where we can meet those needs in a community? So that's what we did in 2013. Tess and I started hand-in-hand counseling services, and we were still working full time. So it was, yes.
Yeah,
so
I know that life. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, yes. So that could be a whole nother series.
Yeah, I know.
So we started hand-in-hand counseling service. We were so excited, and you know, we had this fundraiser party. There was a lot of energy, and then when it was time to do the work, we're like, so where are our clients?
Right. You need clients.
What's next? You know, so it was definitely an uphill battle in the beginning because it was very hard to get on a lot of insurance panels. That's what we didn't know. We were so eager to start the business that we didn't do the research on the business. So this is my advice to people who are thinking about starting a business out there. Spend time doing research. Spend time doing research on the need. If there's actually a need, if there are a lot of people who are providing a service, that's a good thing because you know that there's a need. You know, if you're trying to have a traditional business where you have a storefront or an office setting, then you know you want to find out how far away your competitors are. You know, with private counseling practice, with insurance panels, if there are too many other providers in that area, you're probably want to get denied because they say, oh, well, there's not really a need for you right now, check back. So we got denied by some pretty heavy ones for the first 4 years. So that was tough. But we, you know, with my experience in failure, I'm like, it's going to happen at some point. They just need to see we're a real business, we're making an impact, and that we're going to be persistent and we're not going to give up in this. So, you know, within 4 years, we were able to get that contract and really grow our business. We started off in an office space that Tess and I were sharing 3 days a week.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I think when you hit on the point of doing research on your business, I think that's definitely huge because I know a lot of times for people that are entrepreneurs, we get excited.
Oh yes! Oh my goodness!
And we get so excited about what we're passionate about and things like that we jump over a lot of steps that we should be taking.
That's me.
That's me too. I feel like that's a lot of us. So you know, definitely doing the research on your business and seeing if there is a need for it, seeing if there are other people out there already doing it, seeing if there is opportunity out there, and then going from there. I think that's a good point for sure, because I know I skipped over.
Yeah, I did. I skipped over a lot of steps. You know, bumped my head a lot. You know, had some. Ooh, that was not a good idea.
Yeah, I know what you mean for sure. So you know, for somebody who is trying to understand this line of work as far as mental health and things like that, and I've talked to some other people that are also in this line of work as well, doing really good work in the city of Pittsburgh. Why do you think it is that people get to the point where they need to be diagnosed as far as like their mental health issues and things like that? What do you think leads up to the point of someone having depression or they are being exhausted and things like that? What are some of the things that lead up to them needing to reach out for your services?
Well, that's actually a really good question. It can be a combination of things, especially we'll take that depression because there's so many mental health. We'll take depression because that's a very common one that a lot of people understand. With depression, it could be clinical. It could be to the point where someone has gotten to a place in their life where they are suicidal, where they are hopeless, and they just don't feel like anything is working. Life may not be worth living, and there can be some childhood trauma that led up to that place that was unresolved, that was unpacked, so now they find themselves in that place. But let me just say, someone does not have to be depressed to be suicidal. You know, somebody could have just lost their job, things were going really well, and all of a sudden they got laid off and they're suicidal, or they weren't never depressed. So I just always like to make that very clear. But, you know, with depression, there's so many facets of it. It could be, you know, situational where, or what should I say, environmental, where you're just around a lot of toxic people, or you're in a toxic environment and it's just weighing on you, that transfer of negative energy is real.
Oh yeah.
You know, so when we talk about that, you know, that's not just something that we're saying out of observation, but it's really real. So it can be environmental, it can be clinical, and then it can be seasonal. You know, seasonal depression is real. I'm starting to see a lot of people that I'm working with who are starting to feel the effects of seasonal depression. Here we are, it's the end of August, and we've gotten a lot of rain in Pittsburgh. It's gray more than it's sunny. So we don't get a lot of vitamin D here, which vitamin D is very good for keeping our mood increased, for keeping us in a good mood. And if we don't get that, that can cause a chemical imbalance, which can cause depression or, you know, seasonal depression. So there are, you know, a lot of different things that can lead to someone feeling depressed, someone feeling hopeless or sad.
Absolutely. And then that actually leads up to us actually talking about the other business that you kind of do, which is vitamin C healing. You know, let's talk about that a little bit and what inspired that. Where'd the name come from? Because a lot of people, you know, that want to understand may not. So take us through that. What inspired vitamin C healing, and what is that all about?
So that's funny that you say that, because a lot of people are like, when they pick up my first book, Vitamin C Healing for the Mind, Body, and Soul, they're like, oh yeah, I keep talking to my doctor about taking vitamins. So if nothing else, it's a great conversation starter. And vitamin C is a piggyback from hand-in-hand counseling, because I saw that we were having impact, but I'm like, there needs to be a bigger reach than just this office. How can I speak to more people forever, even after I'm gone? And then my husband's like, vitamin C, healing for the soul. I'm like, wow, that's actually kind of brilliant. Because I said I wanted to encompass everything, you know, holistic healing, mentally, physically, psychologically, spiritually. And that's where he got vitamin C. And vitamin C, the purpose of vitamin C is that when people experience my books, my workbooks, online courses, workshops, me speaking, or us just having a conversation, I want to leave them better than I found them. I want them to feel the way they would feel if they actually took the vitamin C nutrient.
Absolutely. And then also, even talking about some of your books, like you had just mentioned, you have 5 books out that you've been able to work on, best-selling author. You know, take us through the very first book that you were able to write. What drove you to maybe write this book? What were some of the maybe the challenges that you faced in maybe writing the book? Just so that, you know, if somebody out there is watching right now that maybe wants to write a book in the space of mental health, what was that process like, and what led up to you wanting to say, hey, I want to write a book?
So that's something I did a lot as a child. I love to write. I remember my mom would work, and I knew she liked the stories, and she would miss them a lot. And we didn't have the technology back in 1980s that we do now. So I found myself taking notes on her stories, and she's like, wow, these are really good. So it encouraged me to want to keep writing. So it's something that was on my bucket list, and the opportunity presented itself. One Sunday I was in church with my grandmother, and the pastor was honoring local writers. And she's like, that's your sign. It's time to do it. So when grandma say move, you gotta move. Yeah. So I said, okay. So that's when I was, you know, talking to my then boyfriend, husband now, Bill, and we came up with that title. He said, Vitamin C, you know, because of them. I'm like, I love it. So started writing. And the biggest challenge with writing was finding the time to write. Okay. Because I was working a full-time job. Hand in Hand was still in its infant stage, and then we were starting to plan a wedding, and of course I would put something on my plate like writing a book. So I was introduced to a publisher. His name is Chuck Brown. He's been a huge supporter of mine. He's located in Atlanta, expected in entertainment, and he specializes in first-time authors. I was connected to him through Bernard Alexander, who's also the Connect King. Right. So I met Chuck. He was great. You know, gave me some great assignments to help get my thoughts organized, because I was all over the place with my writing, and we were able to finish this book in 4 months. Yeah, so I treated it like I treated college assignments, where I gave myself bi-weekly deadlines. He wanted weekly, but I'm like, that's not realistic for me with everything I have going on. So bi-weekly was good enough, and we got it done in 4 months.
That's awesome. And one of the things that you said was, you know, trying to find time to do these things. And one of the things about this show, I want to be able to kill excuses as far as time, because one of the biggest things for a lot of people is they say they don't have time. And I know even earlier where you said you were also working and also trying to get your hand-in-hand counseling started up. And I feel like if you want to start up something, you should keep your day job to have that steady income coming in.
Absolutely.
Because you don't want to, rely on, if you don't have the job, that you're just trying to get whatever you can and to be able to try to create income. So I feel like if you're, working your job in the daytime and you're actually building up something when you're not there, finding out how to find the time is the most important. So, being able to kill that excuse of time is highly important. So for you, how were you able to maximize on your time in that situation? Like, what were some of the strategies or time management ideas that you took advantage of to be able to, plan a wedding and write a book and all this different stuff? What's some good tips that you can give somebody that they can kill this excuse of time?
Well, I'll say this, and this is something that I've learned about myself over the past couple years, and it's been brought to my attention more recently. We were in our one of our mindset groups, and Nicole Mann said, "You're so disciplined," and I think I've always taken that for granted. The way I was raised, I had to spend a lot of time with my mom's parents, and they were sticklers. Like, they did everything religiously. You talk about people who were about routine and consistency. They were the epitome of it. I hated it. I loved them, but it was just like, it felt like punishment going to their house. Like, they helped to create those study habits, that discipline. You couldn't go outside. You couldn't do anything until that homework was done and it was done right.
Yeah.
So this was instilled in me at a young age. So I just needed to tap back into that when it's time to get stuff done. And I think I just innately have that. I understand that everybody doesn't, and I respect that because it's still not easy. So I had to come up with strategies so I can help other people. One thing that I find important is blocking time out, is because, like you said, you find time for the things that you want to do. So if writing a book or starting a business or going back to school, eating healthy, exercising, if those are things that you want to do, let's talk about blocking out some time realistically so that you can understand what your day looks like. We're not asking you to block out another 40 hours or anything like that, but what if you took 2 hours a day? Now, that's 10 days a week, because guess what? That 2 hours a day that we're blocking off, you're probably spending that mindlessly scrolling on social media anyway. So
watching
you
TV shows and whatnot.
Engaging in mindless activity that's not helping you. So if we replace that or even cut that in half, you can have a whole business, you can have a couple books, you can, reach whatever goal it is that you're trying to reach.
And one of the things that you mentioned was having a routine. So do you have a daily routine that you like to follow? What's that look like?
So it's pretty insane. So bear with me, everybody. So most days I'm up by 4:20 a.m.
Okay.
And I work out at 5 a.m. I have a trainer. That's where Nikki Mans and I go. I knew her before that, but now we go there pretty religiously. So most days I'm up by 4:30 a.m. So I'll either meditate or pray for about 5 minutes just to kind of clear my mind and get myself ready for the day, and then I'll go work out, and then I'll come home, and then I have now that's my time to have my meal. I'll have my shake, and then I'll get dressed, and I'll eat, and then make sure all my inspirations are posted, and then I'm getting myself usually ready to go to the office at Hand in Hand and see clients.
Around like what time?
I usually get there between 9:30 and 10.
Okay, so you say you wake up around like 4:30, and then you're doing all that between, and then you get to the office around about 9?
9:30.
9:30. Okay, and then what's the game plan after that? Is just seeing clients, or what's the rest of the day look like?
So yeah, I'm usually seeing clients most of the day. So when I'm not seeing clients, I try to be very disciplined. I don't want to fall into too much mindless social media scrolling, checking emails. So I've tried to block out time. Maybe it's usually about 2 hours where I'm working on paperwork and administrative stuff, like returning calls I need to return, checking emails, or maybe I do need to get on social media because social media serves a very great purpose. We've met on social media.
Yeah.
So, I want to make sure I'm blocking out that time so that stuff gets done, because it still is important. And then I have lunch every day. I don't skip lunch. When I started full-time entrepreneurship about a year ago, I was pretty busy, and I was so focused on, I have to make sure I'm making money. I have to make sure, clients are being seen. I have to make sure I'm doing this, that I got away from what I preach, which is self-care. So I had to draw back a little bit. Like, I have to eat lunch every day. And when I eat lunch, I'm not on the phone. I'm not checking emails. I'm not on social media. I'm mindfully eating. I'm enjoying my food. I'm taking that time to take a break. And then after I eat lunch, I take about 20 minutes of clarity where I don't do any talking. I don't want to be disturbed. I'm not checking emails or anything like that, so that I can get myself ready for the next part of the day, because a lot of clients need to be seen in the evening because people are working.
So one of the things that I'm curious about, what time do you go to sleep? Because if you're waking up that early, you got to get the hours to get some rest in. So what time do you go to sleep?
So that varies, because if I come home and it's like 8:30 at night, I want to make sure I'm eating. Like, I need fuel for a day like that.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that I eat, I get a shower, have some time to, connect with my husband. We both have probably had long days. And then I try to get to bed by 10:30. Okay. But the thing is, I'm used to staying up till like about 12:30.
Yeah,
so
me
if
too.
if I go to bed early, like at 9:30, 10 o'clock, then I'm going to wake back up at about 1:30, and then I have to make myself go back to sleep so that I can get up at 4:20 or 4:30.
Right. Yeah, because with me, because if I were to try to do your schedule, like, I'm going to sleep around like 1 o'clock. So 3 hours, 4 hours ain't gonna cut it as far as sleep. So if I were to try to do your schedule, I would probably get up like around like 6, because I would need at least a good 6 hours of sleep to actually be able to be recharged to do.
And sleep is important. So if there is a day where I'm extremely exhausted, then I'm going to sleep, because sleep is important. Whether you're working out, you're an entrepreneur, working full time, we have to get sleep. The brain will not function correctly if you're not getting enough sleep.
Yeah, so let's even talk about self-care a little bit, and what are some of the things that people aren't doing that, they're not taking care of themselves, and how can they improve on their self-care?
Well, I think there a lot of times we self-sabotage and we don't even realize it. I think the way we talk to ourselves, there's a lot of negative self-talk, and it's so common. Sometimes that's the main assignment I give to people, is to let's flip those negative statements to positive self-talk statements. Of course, after getting to the root of why they are feeling that way, but the negative self-talk is a big one. Emotional eating, and I'll be honest, like, that has been something that I struggled with, which was inspired the 21-day Refuel, Renew, Recenter, because it takes 21 days to begin to unbreak an unhealthy habit. So the emotional eating, the negative self-talk, the toxic environments. We say we want to be successful, we want to be better, but who are we investing our time with? Who are we investing our time in? And then a lot of times we stay in spaces for a lot longer than we should, whether it's a job, whether it's a bad relationship, whether it's a friendship, or a business that you're not passionate about or connected to. We stay there because that's where routine can work against us, because we're habits a creature, and it's like, oh, well, what am I going to do if I don't have this? And that comes from that fear of failure.
Absolutely. Yeah, the number one investment that you can make is into yourself.
Absolutely.
Overall. I mean, you got to be able to take care of yourself first and make sure those things are in order, because if you got yourself in order, then at that point you can invest yourself into other people and be able to help them as well. So I think you definitely make a great point as far as, self-care and self-talk. Being able to have those positive affirmations, whether you're saying something in the mirror in the morning or whether you're driving in your car on your way to work, giving yourself some positive affirmations, getting yourself pumped up for the day, or maybe in the midday when some craziness may have happened. Give yourself that time to relax, because I know I do these things a lot myself. And I'm not afraid to say, I talk to myself all the time. To kind of to get myself energized and to get my mind right, to have my mindset with the best intentions for the day, because that's highly important. And also just being able to take that time out for yourself is definitely important as well. So and moving forward a little bit more, so where do you see what you're doing? What's the goal that you see yourself having in maybe the next 2 to 5 years? What's the big plan? What's maybe some of the impact that you're looking to have with doing everything that you're doing?
Okay, I have a lot in mind.
Okay.
So with hand in hand expanding it, we want to be able to help more people. So with helping more people, that means we'll need more therapists there. So we want to be able to bring more therapists on. We want to have some satellite offices. So those are some of the things that we want to do. As far as vitamin C healing, I want to do more traveling, speaking, so that my reach can be a little bit more broader. I want to meet more people, and I'm so passionate about my fellow helping professionals. When it comes to my social workers and my fellow therapists, this is some really tough work, but it's necessary work. It's very important work. We're saving lives just like doctors saving lives. So I want to get to a place where I'm able to invest in the work that we do, because social workers are not paid with their worth. I would say it's one of the probably arguably the most disrespected professions out there because of I remember doing an internship and a kid said, "Oh, you just get paid to care." So people probably still think that way, and it reflects in the pay. So I want to get to a place where I can invest so that social workers are paid their worth, and so that we continue to get quality workers who want to stick around, because a lot of people are leaving this field. I don't want people to leave this field who are good at what they do, and more importantly, who care. So I want to be able to invest in, I don't know what that'll look like. I don't know if there would have to be some law that would have to be passed, but that's something that's a very long-term goal for me.
I mean, mindset is everything. I mean, that's the starting point of everything that we do. I mean, from what we think to how we speak to our belief, our attitudes, our emotions, to the actions that we take. It all starts with this computer up here.
Absolutely.
So, when you are able, and I feel like what you do should be respected a lot more, because that's the starting point for all of us, is our mindset. So if you're able to get around someone and give them that positive influence, whether it's through association, through the time that you're given, to the care that you have, the love for the people that you have as well, and also giving them the right tools to be able to consume the right content as far as what they're reading, what they personally may be writing, what they're speaking. All of those things have a high influence on us, and it starts with our mindset.
Like, that's why my cover page is mindset is everything.
Yeah, and that's one of my biggest things too. I mean, mindset is absolutely everything. So, so for somebody that may be, dealing with this, that may be watching right now, what are some? Let's take depression for example. What are some things that they can do to kind of fix that, or kind of, I know it's an ongoing thing. But what are some things that they can do to, I guess, feel better, or what would that look like?
So one, I would say, simple thing is daily gratitudes, because with depression, it's so easy for us to focus on all the things that are going wrong. And once that mind starts that pattern, it kind of just spirals out of control. So starting the day, like we talked about, how you start your day, starting your day with, as soon as you wake up, what am I grateful for today? Right? And then you may even need to get in the mirror and talk to yourself about what you're grateful for, why you're amazing. And people may, "Oh, Sharise, that's corny." It may be in the beginning, but your mind will start believing that the same way your mind believes all that negative self-talk you feed it. So now we have to do some undoing and shifting in that thinking. We have to reverse it. We have to those are what we call cognitive distortions, when people start, thinking like, "Oh, I'm worthless, I'll never amount to anything," or that came from somewhere. So we have to work on where that came from, and then like, okay, so let's start with some daily gratitude. So gratitude, it's so simple. Waking up, I'm grateful that I woke up in a bed this morning.
Absolutely.
So just starting there, that's a good place to start with depression.
Absolutely. And then as we get closer to wrapping up, where, if somebody was looking to reach out, where would be the best place for people to connect with you, reach out to you, or if they even wanted some of your services? Where would be the best place for people to connect with you?
So I am on Facebook under my name, Sharise Nance, Nance, and I also have the Vitamin C Book Club. It's a very supportive Facebook group. If you're looking for counseling services, you can give us a call, 412-871 5391 or visit our website, www.hihcounseling.com. If you're looking for a book, you can also reach out to me on my Facebook or visit my website, www.vitaminchealing.com.
Awesome, awesome. And where could people actually get some of your books? Would that be on your website?
Yeah,
or?
it'll be on my website, or you can go to Amazon, because I know a lot of people love that Amazon Prime, including me. So, it's available on there as well.
Awesome.
All the books are.
Awesome. And then lastly, what's a 24-hour challenge that you would propose to the audience that they can take advantage of within the next 24 hours?
So everybody knows I love challenges, whether it's 21-day, 30-day, but for 24-hour challenge, I want to take it back to something that we just talked about. For 24 hours, I want to challenge everyone to dispel complaining, because complaining, if we're talking about mindset, it is not aligned with having a good mindset. So when you find yourself wanting to complain, let's replace it with a positive coping skill, whether that's saying a gratitude, whether that's taking a walk, doing a push-up, telling your kids or your significant other that you love them, journaling, but let's focus on not complaining. And then notice how you feel after 24 hours of not one complaint. So as soon as you feel yourself wanting to complain, go to a positive coping skill, and then, comment and tell us how that went for you.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, I definitely appreciate you
it was fun.
for coming and being on the show. I definitely enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah.
I love to be able to, talk about these different things, because it's something that not a lot of people talk about. But if we can have these discussions, I feel like it can add a lot of value to, a lot of people out there for sure. So I definitely appreciate you and your time.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely thank you for watching this episode as well. Now that we know what Sharise does with her 24 hours, we definitely want to know what you do for your 24 hours. Definitely make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and comment down below on what was maybe the greatest piece of advice you got out of this episode. So we will see you next time.